everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today I'm doing a video that has been really requested because I get a lot of questions on how to move to Iceland and I keep repeating myself sometimes when I get messages, so I thought it would be useful to do a video and explain a bit like some tips and tricks on how to move to Iceland. Today I'm just going to focus on like how you can move to Iceland with documentation, how to get housing here, what you need to know, how to like integrate yourself into the country if you are thinking about moving. This video is going to have timestamps, so if you are more interested in one topic than another, you can just skip to that section. But please don't do it because I feel like all of the information that I've compiled is kind of helpful, but if you want to like rewind and see some specific things, the timestamps are there. And yeah, let's get started. So the first part, a reason to move to Iceland. You really have to ask yourself, why do you want to move to Iceland? Obviously, Iceland is such a beautiful country. It's supposed to be the most safe country in the world. It has a ton of workers' rights. The wages are really good compared to other places. This is a place with tons of opportunities and such an interesting culture. And obviously, I moved here because it was my biggest dream. So you really have to ask yourself, why do you want to move here? Because even with this that I just said, this is not an easy country to move into, especially if you're not from the European Union. It's very hard to actually get a visa or get approved to move here. The winters are extremely rough. It's not easy to live with no daylight, or in the summer when you have 24 hours of sun. The climate is not the best. Most of the days you are not going to even see sun. It's usually very windy. When I say very windy, it's like we have weekly storms where sometimes you cannot even walk on the street. It's always raining. Like, I feel like it seriously rains every single day. Even if it's just a drizzle, the weather is completely unexpected, so you can never really prepare. It's kind of cold, like you can imagine. Icelandic people, even though they are very nice, I feel like they are not always the most welcoming to foreigners, and I'll get into that later. So if you are going to embark on this journey, you really need to be sure that you want to move here and do some proper research before actually committing to this, because it's not going to be easy, I just have to tell you that. And after you have your reason, you need to see if you are going to work here or study here. If you are going to study here, it's kind of a more easy route that you are going to take. But if you want to work here, it's probably going to be much harder. Because now moving into the documentation parts and the visas, to moving to Iceland, you need to prove that you're not going to be a burden to the country, and you need to prove that you're going to be useful to the country. So you have some very specific requirements that you have to meet, and I really don't know how anyone can move here illegally, because if you don't have what they call a kenintala, which is like the social security number, you can't do anything in this country. You cannot open a bank account. Because you don't have a bank account, you cannot have a phone number here. If you don't have a phone number here, you cannot have like a bus pass. If you don't have the bus pass, you probably can't really get around because like one separate ticket is not that cheap. You will get asked for that kenintala if you do any purchase in any store, basically. You cannot get a Costco membership, and I can keep on and on with this list. You can get housing, you can get a job, so I don't really know how you can move here without going through the steps that I'm going to mention. But if you were thinking about it, like, I really don't recommend it. So if you are going to be a student here, it's much easier. You just need to prove that you were actually accepted in a university here. They don't give visas to study for like secondary school or high school or anything. So you really need to come here to do a bachelor's or something that is postgraduate. There is a really popular TikToker here on Iceland that kind of recommends a method that she did, but I have to tell you, from seeing the website, they specifically said that they don't give out visas if you want to come to Iceland just to study Icelandic, like part-time. They don't give them out anymore. But basically, to apply as a student for a visa, you need three things. You need to prove that you have means of support, and they consider the minimum amount per month to be 217,000 Icelandic kronan per month, which is basically 1,515 euros per month. Like, for example, I don't spend that amount of money per month, but in my case, because I'm from the European Union, I only had to prove that I had that amount for the first 3 months, and after that I didn't really have to prove anything else because I was already here. But if you are coming from outside of the EU, you have to continue on proving that each month you have that. What most people do is that they apply for 1 full year and then they continue on renewing the visas because it's a very complicated process. So to do that, you need to prove that you have that amount of money times 12, which is a lot of money. Even if you are working here and you are making that amount of money per month, you really need to show that you have the full amount to be approved. And if you are earning your money like throughout the months, and if you don't have enough to prove for an entire year, you can do like 6 months, and every 6 months you keep renewing your visa. Besides that, you need to have a health insurance before your Icelandic one kicks in. For me, I just had to show like my European health insurance card that is used to travel, and it worked for the first 6 months, and after the 6 months you are automatically inserted into like the Icelandic insurance. So yeah, and besides that, you just have to show your criminal record, which is pretty obvious when you are immigrating to a new country. But if you are not going to be a student, you have other requirements. If you are coming here to work, you need to have your work contract before you actually move here. If you don't have one, they are not going to accept you with intentions of getting a job when you actually get here, which is way more complicated. And if you already have a work contract, basically your employee needs to say to the government that you are very useful to the country and no Icelandic person can like replace you, so that's why they need you. Be careful when applying for these visas because the deadlines are very tight and they have some very weird deadlines, especially if you are applying as a student. I'm not sure if I'm forgetting anything, but I'm going to link the website where you have all this information. It's very clear actually, so you should look that up. Part 3. When it comes to housing, what do you need to know when you are moving here? Where to find a place to stay? If you are looking for something temporary, obviously you have Airbnb and Booking and hotels and all of that, but for a long term, those prices are not good. So if you're coming here as a student, you have the student housing. They have tons of different options. When I was first looking at places to stay, I didn't really want to stay in a dorm because I came here to do a master's. I was already 23 and I didn't want to go into the whole dorm situation with parties going on and being very loud all the time. I just wanted like my little corner. But after searching, I found out that they have 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. Those are if you have a family, obviously. But they have tons of different options like studios for just 1 person or shared apartments. So you should look that up because it's definitely the cheapest option and the most reliable one, and actually the easiest one to apply if you are coming here from outside of Iceland, because you don't need to put in like a crazy amount of money for a deposit or to send recommendation letters from your previous landlord. But the other website that is actually shared in the university is Housing Everywhere. It has a ton of different options. Most people that I know here actually got their housing from Housing Anywhere. They got like 1 bedrooms and I think apartments too on this website. But there are a lot of scams on this website actually, so you need to be kind of careful. When I was searching for this video, I saw that they had some really weird prices. So before you actually sign up for something using this website, you should check other options to see if you can find better deals. If you are coming as a student to the University of Iceland, you actually get 20% off if you use this website on your rent, but still it still gives me a iffy feeling, but I know a lot of people that got some really nice places with this website, so yeah. But because I haven't actually rented outside of the student housing, I can't really speak on like a personal opinion of these places because I don't really know. But these places where you can find a place to stay is actually Facebook groups, which are very, very common in Iceland because they do everything on Facebook. Even if no one actually uses Facebook where you're from anymore, only your like parents or your grandma. No, Icelandic people continue on using Facebook like we were in 2012. They do everything there. So you have tons of Facebook groups on where to rent. I mean, a few of them, if you search up Lega, which means rent, you can find like the main Facebook group, which is literally called Lega, but then you have others like Lega á ICELAND, which is rent in Iceland, and you always have different options going there. But it's kind of madness because I have rented my place there, and when someone posts something, you get so many responses like in an hour, and then it just basically stops. So it's very hard to actually get a place on Facebook because so many people are looking up new places that are showing up, because the current housing market here, it's kind of insane because there isn't enough housing for everyone. So you need to be prepared to put in a lot of money up front to move, because they have been asking for like the first month of rent, 2 months of deposit, or even 3, and sometimes you have other fees, so it can get really expensive just to move into a new place. Besides the Facebook groups, you have other more like official places to rent, but they are more like in companies, I think. I'm not really sure, but I think it's more formal and you probably need other things to actually apply to this. But I don't really know. I just found them while living here, but I don't actually know anyone that has used them, because most people that I know are like foreigner students that also moved here like I did, so they live in student housing or places that they found in housing everywhere, because that's what's recommended on university website. But you also have another website called mbl.is where you have tons of listings to buy and also to rent. And then there is another website that is called My Igloo that has tons and tons of options, and you have like what you need to actually rent on these places, so I recommend you to check those out. When it comes to furniture, obviously you have an IKEA here, which is technically the most affordable option, but you also have a very popular furniture store here that is actually Danish. In Danish is called Jysk, but here for some reason, unlike the rest of the world, it's called Rumfatalaren, which is such a messed up name, but you have them everywhere. You just need to look them up. They have similar prices to IKEA, and they are actually around the city, so if you don't have a car while moving here, it's much easier to get to. And they have tons of stuff. Besides that, there is another area that I'm going to show here on a map, because I'm not really sure how to pronounce this area, but I'm going to leave like a link on this area, and there you have tons of like furniture stores. I'm not sure if you have other options, but to be honest, they have other stores obviously in like malls and stuff, but it's more expensive than IKEA and Rumfatalaren, so I don't really shop there. But when I eventually move out of the student housing, I'm probably going to look up at other options, and I guess you can do that too if you want to. They are in that area, you just have to walk around. If you are actually looking for things secondhand, obviously Facebook Marketplace and Facebook groups to buy stuff. Also, they have a Facebook group where they give out free stuff that is mostly like in good conditions. I already got a few things from there, and it's called this. I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I'm afraid that I'm going to butcher it because it's in Icelandic, but I'm also going to leave the link in the description if you are looking for some free stuff. When it comes to jobs, how to get a job in Iceland, I get questions all the time. How easily can I get a job if I don't speak Icelandic? Or how easy is to get like a part-time job as a student? And the answer is yes to both. You can get jobs here if you don't speak Icelandic. Like, most people here speak fluently English, so in most places you probably are able to get a job if you don't speak Icelandic, especially in like the tourism area or like hospitality or something in that field. You definitely are able to get jobs without speaking Icelandic. In other areas, for example in geology or some specific things, it's not that easy, but I think something will be available anyways. For things related to health, like as a doctor or as a nurse, probably not, because you probably need to know the language if you're working in like an hospital or something. But besides that, I don't really think the language is that important. But as a student, to get a part-time job, yeah, it's mostly easy. How you actually can get them? There is this website called Alfred, that's what most people actually use. You can also go around the city and see if they have like signs asking for people. They usually have that in stores, restaurants, and like hotels. If you already know someone here, you can also like ask around, which is the most basic thing, but I guarantee you, if you already know a lot of people, someone will know about somewhere that is looking for people. When it comes to integration into the country, like I said in the beginning of the video, Iceland sometimes is not the easiest place to like integrate yourself into. I know some amazing Icelandic people, so I'm not talking about everyone obviously, but sometimes in general they are not the easiest ones to get to know, because I get them. They are not that many most of the times. Like their friend group, they know each other since they were like 3, they met in school, and I feel like in most cases it was like that. They met their friend group in like kindergarten, and then they continue on knowing the same amount of people. Like, it's a small city, so everyone knows each other, and when a foreigner tries to come in, they are not very open into letting someone into the group, because it's already very formed, and most times foreigners just like hang out with each other, because people don't tend to like stay in Iceland for that long, just come here for like a couple of years or something and then move out. So from what I've been told, they don't like to get attached to people that are eventually going to move out. But even with that, I feel like you just have to try, and also sometimes it's just luck. You ended up meeting one Icelandic person that ends up introducing you to other Icelandic people, and in that way you can like get into the group. But even if that's not your case, which is most likely, here actually sports for adults are very common and everyone does something. So if you were used to doing some sport as a kid and you want to do it again, you can try to find something that you might be interested here, like join a badminton club or join some volleyball team that has competitions for adults, which is very casual. I'm doing ballet classes. I'm not actually doing them with adults, but there are a bunch of things that you can try out, and that's a way to get to know people and actually making an effort to speak Icelandic. It's useful to get to know some Icelandic people, obviously, and also to integrate yourself into society here. But you can try to take some courses in the university. You have some evening courses, or you have online courses on Icelandic. I'm going to link like a website where you can try to learn Icelandic online, because this is not like a language that you just have on Duolingo, so it's not that easy to learn. And even though it's a very complicated language, you should probably try if you are thinking about moving to Iceland. Another thing, again, Facebook groups. You can try to find like groups of people with a similar interest to you, or maybe, for example, I'm Portuguese and I'm in a few groups with Portuguese people, and wherever you are from, you are probably going to be able to find a group of people from where you are from, and maybe you can try to connect with some of those people. They also sometimes host like little get-togethers And yeah, there are a few things going on like that. And my final tip on how to integrate yourself here is to get a Tinder. Which is very random, but I know so many people that did this. I didn't came here single, but a lot of my friends that were single actually went on many dates here, and some of the people that they met, even though they didn't end up dating, they became friends with those people. I know you can also use Tinder just to make friends. You have that option, but I'm not really sure. But I do know a lot of people that just met a lot of their friends through Tinder. So yeah, if you want to try that option, you can. So yeah, this was my little guide on how to move to Iceland. I think I covered most of the basics. Again, please check the description on the links of all the things that I just said, because I just spoke from personal experience. I'm not like a government official, so please do your own research. Don't just rely on my words. I may have said something wrong. If you notice that, please feel free to like correct me in the comments, but be nice. I'm just trying to share my personal experience because I feel like a lot of people actually want to know these things. One of my next videos is actually going to be on things that I wish I knew before I moved to Iceland, which is just a list of things that I think are kind of important and might be useful if you are actually thinking on moving, but they didn't necessarily fit in this video. So if you want to see that, please subscribe so you can see my next uploads. And if you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!